Welcome to Pause for the Truth, where you can sit back, relax, and hear an honest dialogue about health, wealth, legal, and social issues. The hosts are Dr. Rogers Kane, family practice physician, and Jocelyn Turner, health education consultant, with co hosts from the Northeast Florida Medical Society and its foundation. Stay tuned for the truth about matters affecting you and your family. We're here to tell you what's really going on and why. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Pause for the Truth. I'm your co host, Jocelyn Turner, and I am delighted that you have chosen to spend this time with us. Tonight, we're discussing a topic that impacts families, schools, communities, and perhaps most importantly, the lives of young girls across our nation. The silent pressure, how young girls navigate identity, expectations, and self worth in today's society. Growing up has never been easy. Every generation faces its own challenges. However, today's young girls are navigating a world that is more connected, more visible, and often more demanding than ever before. They are constantly receiving messages about how they should look, how they should act, what success should mean like, and who they should become. Many girls are balancing academic expectations, social pressures, family responsibilities, and the influence of social media, all while trying to discover who they truly are. Behind the smiles and social media posts, some may be struggling with anxiety, self doubt, loneliness, comparison, and questions about their worth. The good news is that young girls do not have to face these challenges alone. Parents, grandparents, educators, mentors, healthcare professionals, faith leaders, and community organizations all have a role to play in helping girls build confidence, resilience, and a strong sense of self. Tonight, we will explore these issues openly and honestly while sharing practical solutions and words of encouragement that can help young girls thrive. I am honored to be joined by our special guest host, Dr. Trishella Johnson Foy, whose passion for youth development and wellness brings tremendous value to this conversation. Dr. Foy, how are you doing this evening?
I'm blessed and I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me, host. I look forward to this truly excellent conversation on what's happening with our young girls in this world. So I'm excited.
I know people are looking like, wait, where's Dr. Kane? And wait, there's something unique going on with this podcast tonight. You're right. To our regular viewers, you're right. It's an all ladies evening. And so I'm excited. We kicked the boys off tonight. So we're excited to have this conversation. We're also joined Lynn Sherman, Alexia Moss, Betty Seabrook Burney, and another Jocelyn, but a Jocelyn McLeod. So I'm going to start with Lynn. And Lynn, if you could introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I am Lynn Sherman. I serve as the Executive Director of Health Programs in Mayor Deegan's office on her executive team. My background and my history is community engagement and health programming for the community. And in addition to that, I worked for Baptist Health for probably more than 4 decades. And 25 years of that was coordinating a mentoring program for high school students between the age of grades of 9 and 12th grade. In addition to that, I coordinate the mentoring program at my church for probably for the same number of years, for about 25 years. And it's called Sister to Sister Mentoring Program between girls and women at church. And one of the things that we do community-wide is through the Northside Community Involvement, we provide the Girls Empowerment Conference on an annual basis, always the first Saturday in October. And this year we will be celebrating our 17th year. And actually, Dr. Foy was one of our keynote speakers not too many years ago. So as you can tell, my love is for community, my love is for young people, and especially how girls navigate this world.
Thank you so much, Lynn, and welcome. I know it's amazing how time flies, right? I mean, and this next young lady, Alexia Coleman Moss. I remember years ago meeting Alexia, and oh my goodness, her passion has just blown my mind with what she's done, and how no matter how some other nonprofits, small nonprofits might be doing, Alexia has stayed the course and really has been doing her thing. How are you doing this evening, Alexia? And introduce, and if I'm botching your name, please forgive me, but so I'm gonna let you pronounce it if I didn't say it right. But tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. You got my name correct, Alexia Coleman Moss, and I'm the executive director and founder of Empowerment Resources. We were founded, as she mentioned, out of passion and hobby, then turned nonprofit. Just a little bit about me. I have a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in public administration. When I relocated to Jacksonville, I saw a couple of gaps in the neighborhood I was living in. And then Journey into Womanhood was born, which is one of our 3 programs. So I kind of did things a little backwards, started the program, and then said, you know what? Let me look at becoming a nonprofit. So that's how Empowerment Resources was born. Our mission is to empower youth and families. We have 3 programs: Journey into Womanhood, a girls mentoring and rite of passage program. We also teach life skills to teens, both male and female. And then our last program is parenting education. That program has actually taken off since COVID. And under parenting, about 1.5 years ago, we now have a family coaching program called Empower and Thrive. I am a mom. I am an advocate. Even before I became a mom, I've just always loved advocating for children and families, education, voting rights, all the things. And I really do love trying to help support families, build healthy families. And I love sharing resources. I don't come from the mindset of, oh, I can do it all, we can do it all. I definitely believe in sharing. So that's just a little bit about myself and Empowerment Resources.
Awesome. Thank you, Alexia. And I can't wait for our audience to hear more about the great things you're doing. Also, I think some of everybody's mentor, right? Miss Betty Seabrook Burney, right? You know, everybody knows Miss Burney because you talk about passion for young people. And she's just, like an ever-ready bunny. She just doesn't stop. She just keeps going on and on and on and getting in the right faces, getting support, speaking on behalf of our young people. Hello, Miss Burney, and how are you doing this evening? Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
First of all, good evening, everyone. And as I listen to Alexia, it's sort of like we've lived parallel lives. I too, my undergraduate degree was in politics and public affairs. My master's was in public administration. And but for 14 years, I owned a child care center, which was a learning center in Jacksonville, Florida, on the north side. The most important facet of that learning center was to make sure that when little boys and girls who looked like me walked into any school, they were prepared to just serve excellently and do excellently academically. For 8 years, I was on the Duval County School Board, 2 years as school board chair, 2 terms, school board chair, and 2 terms as school board vice chair. And it was during the time that I was on the school board that I would visit all the schools, and there were some of our kids who were flying high, just doing well. But then there was a whole cadre of young people who were not thriving at all. And that is not the way that it should be, because we are actually educating the Google generation, and they are dubbed as perhaps the most innovative and creative generation ever. So I thought I was just starting a 6-week cohort called I'm a Star to help young people, young boys and young girls, middle and high school, thrive. And after the 6 weeks, they never left. That was in 2009. And we still have I'm a Star, which is the I'm a Star Foundation. We have 4 basic pillars in I'm a Star. One is health and ensuring health and nutrition. And Jocelyn was very, very instrumental in our kids doing some of the things they've done. We also do mental health resources, and we have several programs that we work with Duval County Public Schools to help those young people who have been retained 2 or more times to get into their right grade. And when you see the young ladies who are actually 13 years old in the 4th grade or the 3rd grade, it kind of lets us know that we still have work to be done to prepare our young girls to become young ladies of excellence. But then I don't want to take away from the fact that there are so many young ladies who are out there doing some wonderful and great things. One of the other pillars that I would like to just highlight tonight is we have a homeless student initiative. And since 2013, our students themselves have raised $240,000 and given it to the school board. We are having our Celebrity Basketball Classic July 11th, 2026 at 6 p.m. My students' goals is to raise $30,000 for that. And I'm going to send that information in the chat because I would love for everyone to come. Every dollar goes to help a homeless youth.
And you think about the pressure of an individual being unhoused in general, but just imagine a young person and what they have to go to school and the pressure of their peers. So to give the resources that they need to help that family become more stable is awesome. So we'll make sure that we put that on the screen as well as on our website. And last but certainly not least, another Jocelyn who I just met, Jocelyn McLeod. Jocelyn, good. It's so weird saying that, right? But yeah. It's so wonderful to meet you. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Good evening, welcome. Everybody. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Jocelyn, as Jocelyn mentioned. I currently work as a marriage and family therapist in the state of Florida, and I work for a private practice, but my journey with youth and girls began way before this. I have a bachelor's in sociology with a double major in family and child sciences. And then from there, I decided to go get my master's in marriage and family therapy. And what led me to that field is in working with youth, I saw a lot of gaps between parents and adolescents and really just a lack of understanding of both worlds. And adolescence is truly a different world than childhood. And so I set out to begin a career in that field. After I graduated with my bachelor's, I worked as a middle school teacher for 3 years. If you can teach middle school, you can do anything. And it was during COVID, so it was such a challenging time. But I truly loved being with my students. Not so much the politics of teaching, but the youth really was I really like working with them. And then fast forward to after that, I did some child welfare work in New York City. And then I came back to Florida. And that landed me working with girls. I started working at Pace Center for Girls here in Clay County. And that was such a rewarding experience, seeing the girls and being able to support them in some of the most challenging times of their life. Currently, I work with a myriad of people, children, adolescents, young adults, people in their 30s, people who are dealing with retirement. And my specialization, though, is really in relationships, family relationships, particularly adolescents and parents. I really love working with families. I've also done some work with Alexia at Empowerment Resources in our Empower and Thrive family coaching program. And so that was a rewarding experience as well. And I'm just excited to be here for the conversation. Currently continuing on, and I'm in a PhD program for marriage and family therapy so that I could do research on families and adolescents and also develop programs for organizations that may need the services.
Wow. Well, awesome. Thank you, Alexia, for making the connection with us. So let's go ahead and delve into the questions. So, Alexia, I'm going to start with you. When you think about young girls today, what concerns you the most about the pressures they face?
Oh, you would start with me with that loaded question. And you hit on this in your opening when you talked about, I can't remember how you phrased it, but around the generation, and every generation changes, right? So every generation has their challenges. And I often reflect back, and our elders would say, oh, back in our day we didn't do blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And now I find myself doing that. And with youth, like I'll use the example of like nude pictures. My generation, I'm proud Gen Xer, by the way, but it was like a Playboy, Playgirl magazine or something like that, right? And now it's just right there in their hand, thanks to technology, right? So technology, there's a lot of good, but there's a lot of bad. There's a lot of dangers associated with it. And it's about us having conversations with our teens and parents about the good, the bad, the ugly. So definitely, technology, social media, drugs, it's always been there, but now we have vapes and vape pens that can easily look like this flash drive sitting to my left, So it's just a lot of challenges that they have, not to mention things in the educational system. Me and my friends talk about how we went to summer school to have fun. We went to summer school to get a leg up. And now it's like summer school is not really offered, or if it is, you're typically taking it because you haven't passed a grade. And I'm hearing that a lot of times you have to take this online. So they just have a lot of challenges.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anyone else like to answer that question? When you think about young girls today, what concerns you most about the pressures they face?
One of the things that concerns me dearly is the fact that our young girls, many of them are getting their information solely from social media. They are trying to be someone who they think looks a certain way when they don't even realize it may be filters, it may be all of those things. They may want to look like Janelle Monáe or whoever the person is, and not realizing that that person has had more work done, those kinds of things. So they're constantly trying to live up to something that sometimes can be unattainable. The other thing that concerns me a lot right now is that when I say we, I mean, we really do, as the adults in the room, have to make sure that we teach young girls about their history, about who they are, and where they can go. Because many of them right now are looking at something that they think is unattainable and not understanding that there is so much that they have to offer, that they are enough. And when they don't feel that way, mental health is real, and the anxiety, the depression, and all of those things start coming in solely because of a lot of them trying to be someone who they are not.
Thank you so much. And Lynn,
can I add? I'm sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
I was going to say, can I add too that it's so important that we as adults not make assumptions that they know that this is not necessarily bad for them, because we have to realize that they're so exposed to it in every direction that it then begins to be the norm for them. But they have to have adults on the other side saying, this is not how you're supposed to see your life. Social media is a tool. It doesn't measure who you are and how you live your life. It can be used to educate you. It can be used to inspire you, but it does not have to be who you are. And as Betty said earlier, sometimes they measure themselves by who they see and how they see them on social media, and not really realizing or even thinking about the fact that those pictures have been doctored. And what's important for us as people who nurture and support girls is it's important that we help them understand and believe that they are enough. And we have to do that because, believe it or not, we're constantly competing with the negativity and the wrong information that they're getting from social media. But in many situations, they don't have anything to counter that against, because the world that they live in and is all about the fact that what's on social media is the right thing to be doing, because there's no one countering it. And so we have to be able to give them opportunities to make a choice by giving them something else to choose from.
Lynn, I was going to follow up and ask you a question. How are the challenges facing girls today different from those faced by previous generations? Because you talked about your decades of experience. So what do you think?
Oh Lord, that is a very interesting question. Thank you, and you're right about that, because when I started, I'm giving an example. When I started coordinating the mentoring program at church, for example, those girls were my daughter was their age, and now she's in her 40s, right? And the world was different then. You could just you could just give them advice, you could give them information, and they would take it. The majority of them would take it, and we would consider them. Back then, those were the good girls, so to speak. They were obedient. They listened to what you said. They heard your advice. But then there were some who challenged you as well. I mean, they all challenged you, but it was simpler, a lot simpler. They didn't question what you said by going to Google to verify that what you said is correct. And they didn't, although they went to their friends, they certainly didn't go to Facebook or TikTok to research and determine whether or not what you said is true. It was just a different world at that time, and things have progressed. These kids are different, and because they're different, they approach life differently. And because they approach life differently, we have to change with the times. Things are not the way they used to be. And if we continue to try to put these restraints on them and make them behave the way we trained and raised girls back in the day, we're making a grave mistake. We have to move with them. We have to teach them. We have to meet them in the context of their crisis. And if we don't meet them in the context of their crisis, we lose, the community lose, and most of all, the girls lose.
Wow. I love what you said, Lynn. That really resonated with me. Some of that is what I teach in therapy sessions with my families. We cannot assume, and we have to meet them where they are, right? I know, Alexia, you gave your generation earlier. I am millennial / Gen Z, depending on which way you look at it. So I sit in an interesting intersection of technology, like becoming a thing for teenagers, right? And something that I see that relates to what you were saying, Lynn, is that identity formation is sped up for these groups. It is so much quicker than it used to be, right? And identity formation is something that happens normally in adolescence. But the challenge is now is that like you can basically try on all these different identities to see which one fits. And it kind of creates a level of confusion along with a level of trying to feel like you can mesh or fit. And it's going faster than they can process because their brains are just trying to keep up. And so I really resonated with what you said.
Thank you. Thank you, Jocelyn. Again, that's going to be weird. Dr. Ford, did you have something to add, or do you want to ask a question?
Well, no, so as Lynn was speaking, you know, the thing that I thought was interesting as we talk about how young people navigate social media and the information that they're given and what is brought to them, it becomes important to me to ask the question, so how do we truly help them understand that what they're seeing, even though they can Google it or look it up and even ask AI and Chat GPT about these things that they are trying to counter and challenge when we say it, that some of that still is not accurate. And what our algorithm is not just giving you true information, but is potentially just feeding you more of what you want to hear. So if you are looking at things that feed into this negative sense of self, or these ideas about a false sense of who you should be and who you should become, how do we counter that, or how do we help them understand? And I'm asking the panel this, how do we help them understand that there's ways for them to maybe even change their algorithm to get the truth, or really understanding what this algorithmic flow is, and that it's not just about making sure you understand truth, but that it can feed what you are wanting or what it thinks you want, and sometimes that's not always positive. So what do you ladies think about that?
I think empowering them to make their own choices and their own decisions, to let them know that they don't have to follow what is being told to them on their phones, right? And a great way to do that is by enforcing those critical thinking skills, right? allowing them to problem solve, allowing them to figure out what they want to do and how they want to go about it, and not them actually just taking information that's just given to them and trying to make it fit with what they have going on. I find that in the work that I do with adolescents specifically, and specifically girls, right? We're talking about girls, they'll come in and they'll tell me like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'll ask them follow-up questions, not necessarily to get them to change their mind, but to get them to think about the choice and the decision that they're getting ready to make, and to think like, is this a good choice for me? Is this something that I want to do for myself? Do I feel like this is what fits with who I really am? And they take a minute and they think about it. And then maybe our next session, they're like, I actually didn't do that. I decided to do something different. But they made the choice. They made the decision.
And I think a lot of it, I agree with what you said, Jocelyn. A lot of it also is not talking at them, but talking to them, actually listening. I am literally probably 50 years older, 55, 60 years older than many of the kids that I work with. But I have to make sure that I still try to stay relevant with them by not assuming that I know everything with regards to them. Just like we say that they shouldn't assume they know everything, neither should we. We have to ask questions. And then I'm a firm believer in allowing young people to navigate. We stand in the background a little bit, but allow them to navigate, to make decisions, to give them an alternative of something to do. The easiest thing to do is to say, oh, that's all they're doing. They're on their social media. They're doing this or they're doing that. But what are we giving them that is going to give them an alternative? Are we providing the types of programs that can meet their needs? Are we asking them, what would it take to get you to become this or do that or the other? And I think that the conversations need to be had, and the conversations need to be a little bit more in depth if we're not doing that right now with young ladies.
So agree with you, Betty. So agree with you. And we're talking about healthy self-esteem. How do we help girls develop a healthy self-esteem? We've got to make sure that they know that they are loved. We've got to make sure that they know that they're capable. We've got to make sure that they know that they belong. And when they cannot get those things, it's difficult for them to have the resilience they need, because resilience is not pretending that everything is okay. It's not pretending it is learning, literally learning how to recover from life when it isn't okay. How do you get through these things? How do you navigate life when it isn't okay? It's not, we pretend that everything is okay, and it's not okay with them. So those coping skills that you talked about, Jocelyn, are so important. We have to make sure that they have the skills to navigate the challenges that they experience, and that they have the emotional regulation to problem solve. And if we're not intentional about that, then we just assume that they're just bad girls, and they don't, but they're not. They're not. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a bad girl. There's no such thing as a girl that's not worthy of getting what we need. I mean, the worse they are, bring them to me, because there is a reason for all of that. There's a reason for the underlying anger, the defense, the negativity, and what we as adults have to do is see past that. We've got to see past the surface, and we've got to understand that they need us. They need us to love us. They need to love them. They need us to help them understand that they are capable and that they belong right where they are. They are not misfits.
Yeah.
And I think about, I think about, as you were talking, Lynn, I think about if a mother has a close relationship with her daughter, and the daughter sees her mother struggling, right? And we're not even talking about the struggle that she may be dealing with in her own self in terms of school and peers and yada, yada, yada. But then that other layer of within their household and seeing her own mother struggle. Jocelyn, do you deal with that a lot, helping young people to navigate their own lives in terms of being a young person, but also understanding how to navigate what's going on within their household and look at the struggles of their own mothers?
Yes, absolutely. That comes up a lot. I do work with quite a few actual like mother-daughter duos, and oftentimes what I see is they're trying to save each other from the effects of what's going on within the family. And what I actually tell them in session is what makes it a lot easier to navigate is when you guys are being open and vulnerable with each other about how you're feeling,
Mm,
not in an effort to fix the problem for each other, but
mhm,
sharing experiences. I wonder how much more connection we could have between daughters and mothers if mothers were open about what they were going through and their experiences, and if daughters were open about their experiences, and it was like a no judgment zone, right? Like
mhm.
I just wonder the level of connection. So I see that all the time, and what I preach is vulnerability, curiosity, and openness so that we can form that connection.
May I tell you something that's happening in the I'm a Star Foundation? Um, it goes back to what you just said. We were preparing for our youth-led mental health conference that we've been doing every year for almost a decade, and one of the kids, they're always challenged to come up with something new. So one of the kids came up with a game called Perspective Switch, and in
Mm,
Perspective Switch, mothers become daughters, dads
mm,
become sons, etc. And they've developed these cards, and the cards has some sort of scenario on it. And the mother and the daughter, that the mom now becomes the daughter, so she can learn that perspective from the daughter, etc. And
mm.
those are it is an outstanding way for parents and kids to see each other in a whole different light and to understand each other. And so I was
I love
really pleased with what she did because it is truly an excellent game.
I love that. If you're just tuning in, our topic tonight is the silent pressure, how young girls navigate identity, expectations, and self worth in today's society. As you can see, we have a distinguished panel. I have a distinguished co host this evening. So ask us some questions. This is your time to chime in, ask questions of our guests, and even share your thoughts. What are your thoughts to our audience about how girls navigate identity, expectations, and self-worth? Dr. Foy, I think you wanted to say something. I don't know if it was a follow-up or.
Well, no, and so as I listened to Lynn, and I've been fortunate enough to probably participate in all of the wonderful programs that all of our panelists are doing. You guys are really out there doing some amazing things with the community, really inspiring young women. And so, Alexia, one of the things that I saw, maybe you actually might have been walking down the road for a comment on this too, as we talk about making sure that they understand that they are enough, making sure that we empower them, making sure that we feed into them and nurture them. I think about some of the things that you guys are doing. And so can you tell us a little about how do we do that? How do we talk to this community that's watching us right now, or to parents who are the ones who have this task? What are some things that they can do that to really feed into our young women that way we would want them to?
Yeah, so a lot of listening, a lot of active listening, and less lecturing, right? Again, I grew up in that generation where it was a lot of lecturing. We didn't talk back. We talked in our heads. I might have talked to my friends about it, and that was it. This generation, as we talked about, is totally different. They have been taught and empowered, and we love this, to express themselves. Something I try to work with my girls from JIW and in my own house is I want you to express yourself, but I want it to be in a respectful manner. But allowing them to express themselves. Jocelyn knows this. One of the things we do in our family coaching program is helping the girls, and we work with boys in that program too, the parents, caregivers, like, what are all the feelings? So if we think about the movie Inside Out, which is a great movie, parents, I don't care what your age is, that is an excellent movie. And it talks about all the emotions, right? So helping our parents and caregivers understand emotions, helping our kiddos understand emotions, and allowing them to express it, right? Lynn said there's no such thing as a bad child, right? It's the behavior that's bad. And there's no such thing as having a bad emotion, right? It's what you do with that. So one thing is allowing them to express themselves, making sure they have an outlet. Sometimes they don't want to talk to us, and that's okay. And I know the village is cliche, but it's very powerful. So making sure they have a village, making sure they can identify their village. I have a daughter. I constantly talk to her about, if you don't want to talk to me or dad, like, let's name the people that you can go to and talk to. And then I definitely am a firm believer in mentorship, right? Whether if it's the mentorship at school with the teacher, the guidance counselor, but building that mentorship so all of our girls have a place to go to be seen and heard.
Wow, that's powerful. How does a young girl's sense of identity develop, and what factors have the greatest influence on that process?
I would say her environment, right? Is she in an affirming environment, affirming of the good things about her, or is the environment just tearing her down and telling her all the negative things about her? That sense of identity development is something that is socially constructed, which means that the people who are around us have a direct influence on how our identity develops. What people tell us we are as kids, we can internalize that and believe it. And until we prove otherwise, we go through our lives believing that. And so affirming them, like Alexia mentioned, that active listening, remaining curious and not assuming, those are really key ingredients in helping young girls develop a strong sense of identity that is unshakable. Because in adolescence, when they get there, it becomes really shaky. And it's like any information that can get in, it gets in and it starts mixing up and they're trying to figure out what's going on. But if they have a secure base with that village, with that environment, it can really help to come up against some of the negative stuff that's out there.
Yeah.
Can I add I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Just to kind of piggyback on that, I think that, it's important to, as we think about kind of how young people develop who they are, when they're first developing, they're looking at the people who are the closest to them and around them. And that's where family has the greatest opportunity and that play the greatest role, where they are looking for who they are through the eyes and the lens of how their parents see them and how their cousins and family and all the people who are around them in this development stage. But then it transitions from looking at and feeling like, what is the family thinking about them, to how they're interacting with their peers and how they're interacting with society, what they're seeing more so on TV and the signals that they're getting from the community as they engage. And so a part of that development becomes less important as to what my parents are thinking and what my parents are seeing and how they feel about the things that I do and the person that I am. And it transitions to what my friends, what the people who I want to impress, what they're thinking about me. So I think as we are nurturing them when they are younger, really solidifying this sense of the person that you are as the person that you want to be in the room all the time, and developing this good human as much as we can pour into them when they're young, and removing this idea of perfection, helping them understand that as they develop, they're going to make mistakes, that they're not going to always be liked, that the people they like may not always like them, and that all of those things are okay. And really that resilience that comes with all the life lessons, all the molding, so that when they do start looking at others to kind of develop or to further who they are, it won't completely rattle the foundation that's been built at home by the parents when it's kind of done the right way. And so being engaged early on in some of the programs that you guys present, I know it's great opportunities for young people. So I just wanted to add that in as we kind of navigate this conversation. I know somebody else had a comment at this time.
I was just gonna say you were spot on, and you probably said some of what I was gonna say. But and Jocelyn too, she made such a great comment, and I think that we as adults, as women, as parents, need to be sure that we create safe spaces for girls to be honest about what they're experiencing and who they are, and without the fear of judgment. And so I really liked what Jocelyn said about them, daughters and parents being able to have conversations, because safe spaces really can make strong voices, and strong voices is what we want. We don't. The silence is what confuses us, and the silence is what makes us not really know what's going on in their lives, and allowing them to be honest and not cutting their lips off if they say something that we don't like, or if they say that they're engaged with something that we're not happy with. And it's so important that we expose girls to possibilities. We have to let them meet women who are doctors like you are, Dr. Foy, and like you're going to be, Jocelyn. I mean, doctors and lawyers and Indian chiefs, they have to be exposed to various things so that they can make good decisions, because you can't aspire to be what you never see and that you're never exposed to. And one of the things over the years in working with mentoring programs and working with women matching with girls, it is so important that they can see what's possible for them. That is one way for them to see what's possible for them, because if they live in a box, they're never going to get out of that box. And when they get out of that box, they're going to be something. They're not going to know what to do with themselves. We have to teach them to advocate for themselves and speak up. Many times girls get into challenging situations with the opposite sex, and even sometimes with the same sex, because we have not been intentional about teaching them how to advocate for themselves and encouraging them to ask questions, as opposed to saying, shut up, don't say anything, you don't have an opinion, but allowing them to express an opinion. And if they express their opinion, too many times we say they're just being grown. And then we cause them to close down on us and not share that critical information that we need to know, so that we can help them navigate those problems and those challenges in their lives. But if they're not talking to us, then we can't do that. And it's so important that mothers, and I would encourage every mother in this audience, if you have a daughter, find a mentor for her. If she does not have one, be intentional about matching her with a positive person in her life. She needs someone else to talk to other than you, because she's not talking to you. She's not telling you everything, no matter what you believe. And so it's so important that you help her find a positive adult that can give her good advice, so that she's not always feeling like she has to go to her friends to get advice that may or may not be true. So I think it's so important that we give them what they need.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Lynn, because I've had conversations with people recently who talked about when they were growing up, their mom or parents did not let them spend the night over everybody's house. Like, they were very selective. You only spent the night over to relatives' houses. How do you help young girls navigate? And for those of you who have daughters, and I'm gonna just put it out there. So Lynn's daughter is my niece, right? And so I got a chance to keep my niece, right? And I think I was a positive influence on her. Lynn says she acts like me sometimes, but we'll put that aside. But excuse me.
That is true.
But how do you navigate that as a parent, allowing, or did you navigate that if you have older adults, allowing certain people to be around your daughters, and then having the tough conversation that, no, you cannot be around? Because I remember, and my mom might be listening, so yeah, my mom is in her 80s, but I remember when growing up, when my mom told me there were certain people that I couldn't be around, and I'm not going to name them because some of my high school classmates might be listening, but it was, and that was her decision. And, back in the day, as someone said, I think it was Alexia said, that you just did what you were told, right? But I think what I'm hearing tonight is so important, to have a conversation, not just tell them why they need to do that, tell them they can't do this, but have a conversation and say why, as a parent, you're making that decision. So I'm going to first start with, how did you help your children navigate, or did you ever have to tell them no, they couldn't be around somebody? And did you give them a reason why?
So I don't have girls. I have two boys, but I think that it's sometimes all one and the same. I think that for every parent that's out there, remember that you have to make sure that your children understand that you are the parent. And so there are some hard decisions sometimes that you have to make. I would say to my sons, no, you can't be with this young person right now. I would explain to them why, but I would always leave them with this. Your father and I are dreaming for you. Right now, you don't have all the dreams in you that you should. We're putting them in you, and we are dreaming for you. And we're not going to let anybody right now make your dream a nightmare. So you have to make sure that you let them understand who they are also, and the expectations. So some people may say, well, that's easy to say, because this is a whole different generation. Yes, it is. But children do look for and need expectations and limits placed on them.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes. So I am a mother. As I mentioned, I have a whole 13-year-old, and she is a social butterfly. So my husband and I definitely get but why? Why can't I go? So I need to know all the things, the who, what, when, where, how. I'm an older parent. So I have the old school expectations of, I would like to talk to the other parent, and we don't always get that. Sometimes it's a text. Mm-hmm. So I've had to kind of like, oh, okay, they're younger, and this is how, as a parent caregiver, this is how they want to communicate. But I need to know all the things. And if we don't know all the things, we're going to be close by. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's a no, right? And then like Betty explained, I'm going to explain to you why it's a no. Now, new school parenting in me, I do sometimes try to compromise. It's a no. You can't go to the mall unattended or what have you. But I will go with you, and I will be about 25 feet behind you. Would you like that? And you have a choice, yes or no, right? And I'll even say, even with our JIW girls, just say we're at a community event. We're going in groups, you know what I mean? And we went to a conference not too long ago, and some of the kids were kind of hanging out. And I'm like, we're not hanging out, right? Now you can do this with this group leader, that kind of thing. But again, it's about having the conversation, explaining why it's not an absolute no. It might be a maybe, or we can do this within reason. So that's how I try to approach both my daughter and working with girls in the community.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Jocelyn, just to add something on, I want to, my space as a doctor and the things that I get to do, because I take care of young people. I used to take care of from birth to death, but now it's 5 and older. So when I have my young people, come in, one of the things that I do, and Alexia, I believe, said this earlier, or Lynn stated that, it's important to talk to them and for them to have someone to talk to, and it may not always be the parent. So what I usually try to do in my role as my young people start to develop, I ask parents to step out. But before I ask them to step out, I tell them, hey, I'm going to talk to them about some things. And these are going to be things that you want me to talk to them about, even if you don't know that. Now, I'm going to encourage them to have conversations with you about all the things that I have discussed with them and that they have shared with me. However, it is important that they have someone to talk to that they can feel safe with and respected with, who's going to listen to them and perhaps provide them some guidance in a way that is not just them talking to their friends. And so I need them to know that I am their doctor and that I am here for them. because their blood pressure may not be high. They don't, always have the medical issues. But it's important that in that time frame that I get to spend with them, that they feel the mentorship, they feel the nurturing, they feel the respect and the opportunity to really just be themselves wholeheartedly and to ask the questions that they may be afraid to ask their parents, to be able to really be vulnerable and to, create opportunities in space for them to learn about the things that they may not understand. Now, I don't ever want to intercede with what the family relationship is, but I also want the parents to know that their children are safe with me and that we're going to have conversations, and that if they can't talk to them about it, that they can't talk to me about it. So I like my young people to leave my office feeling and knowing that even if I'm their parents, doctors also, and that what we say is safe and special and covered. And so as doctors, I think we have an opportunity to do that outside of being the parents that we are to our own children and the community leaders that we are. So just wanted to add that on in there.
I like that. And I want to pose a question to Jocelyn. Jocelyn, how can adults recognize when a girl may be experiencing anxiety, depression, or emotional distress?
Oh, that's a really great question. And it really boils down to being able to really just have that moment where you can check in with your adolescent girl, right? And a few ways that you can do that is, like we've talked about constantly throughout the night, having that safe space. But it may not always look like, hey, are you okay? Or, hey, what's wrong with you, right? So when you are seeing certain symptoms, like they're in emotionally distressed, right? Or they're experiencing depression or anxiety, you may just need to ask them, how can I be with you? How can I sit with you? Can I draw with you? Can I color with you? Can we go on a walk, right? They may not want a solution right away. They may be trying to work through it and figure it out, and they want to, and they may not be ready to completely tell you exactly what's going on. But just because you don't know what's going on, it doesn't mean that you can't be there as a source of support for them. Sometimes as adults in these young girls' lives, we feel like we have to really fix everything for them and make sure we know everything that's going on. But sometimes they just need someone to see that they are struggling and to just be there. So when you notice some of those emotions are coming up, being able to have that like soft check-in with them. And if you get some resistance, that's okay. But just be there for them. Just be around. Just be close, because they may reach for you. If you have a teen girl or a young girl who just is very closed off, I would recommend maybe doing something with them that they like. Doing some type of bonding activity together to get them to kind of soften, right? If they are chronically being like, don't want to open up to you and they are going through something, someone mentioned it, I think it was Lynn, making sure they have a mentor, someone that they can actually talk to, that they do feel safe with. That could be a mentor, that could be a counselor at the school, that could be a therapist, that could be, a godparent, an aunt, somebody who they can open up to.
Yeah, I remember one time we did a few months ago, I think it may have been last year, we had a young person, we were doing a youth mental health summit, and we were talking about, it was Mental Health Awareness Month, I believe, and we were talking about 988. And one of the young people came up to me afterwards and say, all the things you're talking about, I think my sister is going through that. Mm-hmm. Who can I? And so for a young person to come up to you and recognize that the things that you talked about, he was seeing in his sister. Mm-hmm. And he asked, what can I do to help her? Right. And I thought that was so powerful and so to have these conversations, I love the fact that we work with folks like you to have these events for young people. They come up with, we just tell them we want to do this. How do you think this should look? And we give them the opportunity to talk about, and I know Ms. Bernie, as all of you give them the opportunity to say, this is how I think the event would be more impactful and that my peers can relate to it. Because as older people, we obviously are going to plan things the way we think they should go. but allowing the young people to be a part of the planning of it is important, because it was at that moment, it was something that was said that that young man said, my sister is experiencing this. What can I do for her? So I want to make sure that I do mention to our audience 988. Know the resources that are available, and we'll make some resources available to you, and certainly put all of these, the organizations that are present here tonight, how you can reach out to them. I want to ask, what characteristics make a positive female role model?
Honestly,
All these ladies here, we got 4 of you sitting here, and so just tell us. So, what do you think, Dr. Burney? What are some of the things that you would like young women to emulate?
I would like for young ladies to emulate, I'll turn it around. As a role model, the first thing that we have to do as role models is be honest with ourselves, and to also not judge so much, but love a whole lot. So I think that as role models, those are 2 things that we need to make sure that the young lady sees in us, or they're not going to trust us one bit.
Good. That's great advice.
Anybody else?
Honesty and transparency for sure. And being a safe place, valuing safety and relationship over compliance or whatever else you want the young girl to do. If they feel like you are a safe place to come to, they'll come to you. But if you betray that trust, if you make it unsafe, it's incredibly devastating. So.
I would say. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lynn. I think it was Lynn.
You go first. E comes before L.
Being consistent and showing up. So don't say that you're going to be a mentor, you're going to be there, and then you don't show up. And showing up doesn't always mean in person. That's the beauty. Here's the positive of technology. You know, you can text a girl, you can call her, or what have you. So being consistent, being there. And really quickly in the JIW program, I tell our mentors that same messaging, because the girls won't always reach out to their mentor. So we encourage the mentor to reach out to them. And then I always tell the mentors, like, if you're going to miss a meeting, let the girls know. And that's what they do. Where's Miss Jocelyn? And it's like, but Miss Jocelyn texted you 3 weeks ago and you never responded. But it's like, that's their love language, right? So definitely be consistent, show up, and continue to bridge that gap with communication in various forms.
Thank you. And Lynn?
I think it's important that you set healthy boundaries. A good role model will set those healthy boundaries for girls. And when I say that, I mean, you don't allow a girl to talk to you any kind of way just because you're her mentor. The attitude still has to be right. And it has to be, and it goes both ways. If you want me to be kind to you, my expectation is that you'll be kind to me. And that I think a good role model will demonstrate demonstrate good, strong work ethics, because your commitment to your work and your school or whatever you're doing, that young woman is going to want to emulate that because you're now setting a good example for them. And show confidence. When it's time to show confidence, it's not, the role model shouldn't be, back down or be weak. You should show confidence because you want them to do the same thing. And then a role model also should demonstrate good individuality. Like you are, I'm my own person. That's important to me. And I think that's a great example for young women to see you wanting to demonstrate your own individuality, because then they'll want that for themselves, because then they'll see that works for your life. Right. And so I think it's important that we model it in front of them, those things that we really are, and that they have a chance to see us grow when we're rewarded or get a promotion or something good happens in our lives and we're growing, I think it's so important for us to share that with them and say, look at what this too can happen in your life. And they see that example that you have set in your modeling, and then they eventually want that for themselves as well. But if they never see anyone else around them do anything positive or achieve, then it makes it very difficult for them to be what they can't see, as some people say, right? So
Yeah.
that I think it's really important for us to take that modeling very seriously.
So, and Lynn, I appreciate what you have said so much, and I know we're running on time. The thing that I want the audience, as we piggyback on that, is to know that every woman needs to know they have the potential to be that leader, to be that model that a young girl needs. You don't have to be a doctor or a lawyer or have accolades behind your name. If you feel, if it's in you, the capacity to love, to nurture, to show up as your authentic self, to want to help somebody be the best version of themselves, that's what it takes, more importantly than anything, to be a great role model and mentor. We need mentors. We need people who want to help take the hand of these young girls and help them transition throughout their lives. So leaving space for vulnerability within ourselves, helping them understand that no matter what titles we hold, we're not perfect. We've had struggles, but that they can be everything they want to be despite the struggles, despite the hardships, despite everything, and that they don't have to have a certain type of profession or career to be the best woman they can be in this world. I think leading with that, and for all of our listeners knowing that they can be what any young girl needs at any time if they have the love and desire to do it. So,
and Dr. Ford, thanks, because I was going to ask our audience as we near the end of the podcast, our guests rather, complete this sentence. Every young girl deserves to know that
they're valuable,
that they are smart, talented, and resilient.
They are supported and seen.
They are loved, that they are capable of being anything and doing anything that they want to do in their life, and they belong.
What about you, Dr. Foy? How would you answer that? Every young girl deserves to know that.
Every young girl deserves to know that who they are and who they become is up to them, and that they can do it, that they are the masters of their fate, and that they drive that carriage and they can do anything that they really want to do.
And I would answer, every young girl deserves to know that she matters, that she matters. So I'm going to ask each of you as we end tonight's podcast, and Dr. Kane would say, it's never enough time. We need a 2-hour show. I'm just like, man, people want to have dinner. Leave them alone. But we do like to give our guests an opportunity to share their final thoughts. Anything that we asked tonight, any final message that you'd like to leave with our guests? And I'm going to start with you, Ms. Bernie. What are your final thoughts regarding tonight's podcast?
First of all, I'd just like to say to the ladies on this platform, you all are all that. I have enjoyed listening to each and every one of you. The one thing that I'm left with that I would like to share with the audience and everyone else is that the late James Baldwin said, for these are all our children, and we will either pay for or profit by what they become. And if we can embody that and understand that every little girl walking around is our daughter, and we will either pay for or profit by what she becomes, I think then it will give us the impetus to know that we need to make the opportunity to go to that young lady and try to develop a relationship.
Thank you. And Jocelyn, what about you? What are your final thoughts?
I will leave the audience with continue to remain curious and intentional in your relationship with young girls. It really is the vehicle. It really is the foundational piece of getting to truly know who they are. And once you build connection, they open up.
Thank you. That's awesome. Alexia, what about you? What are your final thoughts?
continue to make that space to have the conversations with your teens, your girls. Make sure you're using active listening. One of the tips we provide in parenting, you can come get more on Thursday nights, but one quick tip is little silly things like maybe they don't want to talk, but most of our kids have a cell phone. Text them an emoji. That's something we do to honor feelings and like, hey, how are you feeling today? This was my day. And send your daughter an emoji or like a cute little meme, but just continuing to have the conversation with them in a fun way and not always in a harsh way.
Thank you. Thank you. And Lynn, what are your final thoughts as we end tonight?
My final thoughts is that our girls don't need perfection from us. They need presence. They need adults who will listen, encourage, protect, guide, and believe in them. Every girl deserves to know she's being seen, she's valued, she's capable, and she's worthy of exactly being exactly who she is.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dr. Foy, what are your final thoughts regarding tonight's podcast?
Well, my final thoughts are that it's been an honor to be here. I'm so grateful to be on this platform with these amazing women. I encourage people to tap into the resources that are here in Jacksonville. These are the mentors. These are the people who have the opportunity to feed into your young women. So look these ladies up, get these young girls out there and be the mentors to them that you can be. Thank you.
Thank you. As we conclude tonight's discussion, I want to thank our special guest co-host, Dr. Trishella Johnson Foy, and our wonderful guests, Lynn Sherman, Alexia Moss, Betty C. Brooke Burney, and Jocelyn McLeod, for sharing their wisdom, experiences, and heartfelt perspectives. Tonight's conversation reminded us that while young girls face tremendous pressures, they also possess incredible strength, intelligence, creativity, and resilience. What they need most is support, encouragement, positive role models like our guest tonight, and safe spaces where they can grow into the people they were created to be, like Empowerment Resources. I'm sorry, I have to give those plugs. We have heard that self-worth cannot be measured by likes, followers, appearance, popularity, or the expectations of others. True self-worth comes from understanding one's value, embracing one's unique gifts, and knowing that every young girl deserves to be seen, heard, respected, and loved. As parents, grandparents, educators, healthcare professionals, faith leaders, mentors, and community members, we all share responsibility for creating environments where girls can flourish. A kind word, a listening ear, encouragement, mentorship, we heard that throughout tonight's discussion, and positive affirmation can make a lifelong difference. Before we leave tonight, I want every young girl who may be listening to remember this. You are enough, you are valuable, you are capable, you are worthy of respect, and your voice matters. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Pause for the Truth. Please continue these conversations with your families, friends, schools, churches, and communities. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of one another, and never stop seeking the truth. Good night.
We appreciate you spending time with us on Pause for the Truth. Ms. Jocelyn Turner and Dr. Rogers Kane are grateful for your support. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, catch us live on Twitch, and most importantly, subscribe on YouTube. A big shout out to Tyrone Jackson at Call Tyrone IT Services for keeping us connected. Join us every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more enlightening discussions. Thanks, and see you next week.